You're watching Techstrong Gang. Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm Alan Schimmel. Welcome to Techstrong Gang. So what the heck were we doing in that opening? Well, if you couldn't tell, he was see no evil, I was speak no evil, and he was hear no evil. And that pretty much sums up what we want to do here on Techstrong Gang. We're going to try to keep evil out of it, though evil has a way of seeping into our conversation sometimes. We've got a great gang and some great stuff to talk about today. Let me introduce you. First of all, well, let's do the remote for folks first. Had a little tongue twister there. First of all, joining us from somewhere at sea. He's on his boat as usual. And the mariner, not the submariner, but the mariner, and cybersecurity expert, Chris Blask. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Alan. Good to see you, folks. Yes, I'm anchored off a little island somewhere around Vero Beach.
Very cool. Very cool. I hope it's not too cold that you need the scarf, or is that more of a look?
I'm a cold-blooded person. My wife Donna is on board with me.
Oh,
so
really?
We've been
Good
married
for
40
you,
years.
Chris.
Yeah. So she's basically in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm bundled up with mittens. That's just the way it is.
Yep. Excellent. Well, thanks for being here. It's great to have you on. Joining us, I guess, home in San Angelo, Texas, where she's just come off yesterday's Predict 2025 panel that she hosted live. And you can check that out, and you can catch it, well, not live anymore. It can only be live once. But you can watch the recorded version on predict2025.com as well. There's a whole bunch of other great content. It's our special content editor at large, Amanda Razzani. Hey, Amanda, how are you?
Great. Happy to be here as always.
Happy to have you on. All righty. And then I'm really happy to be joined here in our Boca Raton studios. The prodigal sons have returned. To my left, that might be your right, our chief content officer visiting us from New York, Mike Vizard. Hey, Mike, great to have you here.
The great state of Florida was kind enough to issue me a passport so I could be here.
Only for a short period. At 6 o'clock, you're back out.
Didn't stop you at the border.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, he wasn't spouting woke stuff, I guess. But I noticed you wearing some Techstrong swag.
Yeah, this came for the holidays, so I got this little Techstrong group vest thing here. So, I'm still waiting on my gang colors, but I'll wear these in the meantime.
Well, those are our gang colors,
Well,
black and white.
well.
Well, actually, a lot of our gang members will be sporting these. I think we had them sent. But anyway, thanks for being here, Mike. Joining us from Colorado. He's a little less high here. I can tell his eyes are very sharp.
Still high.
You're still high.
Little.
Yeah. He's future VP analyst and our friend Mitch Ashley. Mitchell, it's great to have you here in person, man.
It's great to do it in the studio. We always have fun when we get together. So I
Absolutely.
feel like we're men in black, at least partially.
We
on this
do.
end.
Yeah, we are sort of men in black today, back in black. I should mention, I did mention that Predict 2025 was yesterday, and it was one of the best, I think the best Predict we've had. It was
Really good.
an amazing sessions, amazing speakers. Of course, a lot of them had to do with AI, surprise, surprise. But a lot of it had to do with agentic AI and different aspects of AI. And we had speakers from AWS, some of the other big hyperscalers. We had 3 or 4 folks from Futurum. We had our friend Carolyn Wong and Jennifer Leggio and a lot of, friends, Mitchell, from our cyber days. And so it was all good to have them. It was great, including, as I mentioned, Amanda's panel with our friend Hope Lynch, gang members Hope Lynch and Guy Courier. I guess that was the Techstrong Gang
There you go.
panel for Predict. And one of the highlights, though, for Predict every year is we announce the DevOps Dozen Awards. And this was the 10th year for DevOps Dozen Awards. We had 8 community categories and 14 tools and service categories. And I'll tell you, we had over 8,000 votes cast for the DevOps Dozen Awards this year. judges were Hope Lynch and Mitchell and myself. And for the most part, we went along with what the audience voted for, though there were some companies, shall remain nameless, who tried to game the system.
No.
Yeah.
In this day and age, gaming the system.
Well,
voting, after all.
Well, people don't vote, but these people voted over and over and over again.
Were they in Chicago?
No, those are dead people involved in Chicago. People who vote multiple times are usually right here in Florida. Anyway, but we did discount those votes. So it was a free and fair election. We had no riots or anything. It went well. I'm really happy to congratulate all of the DevOps Dozen award winners. You can see the award winners on, I believe it's DevOps.com, as well as at DevOpsDozen.com, DevOpsDozen.com. So congratulations to our award winners. Worthy award winners.
Well, we're going to jump into this in the A block, right?
I thought that was the A block.
Well, we normally do a little introduction there, but up to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, that was our A block. That was the DevOps Dozen Award. Guys, what do you guys think? You saw the winners. You Mitchell and Amanda and Mike, you've been doing this with us for years now. Thoughts?
I felt that this was kind of the winners of the old guard, right? A lot of the vendors who won have been in the category for a long time. So is there something indicative of that where maybe we're seeing fewer startups win, or what's your sense of where are we in this market?
I think it depends on the category, right? When you look at, like, for instance, best DevOps end-to-end product, that doesn't change. I mean, the nominees are always the nominees. You got GitLab in there and CloudBees and JFrog, end-to-end DevOps platforms, GitHub. There's just not that many. Harness. So, that's who it is. But remember also that in those categories, look, we don't nominate the finalists. It's self-nominated and open to people. And then it's who votes for them. So is there a lot of change in DevOps? But I also like to look at some of the new categories because we do add new categories every year. So this year we had several AI categories. We had a platform engineering category. And of course, what I always call the Rookie of the Year, the best new DevOps tool.
Mm-hmm.
So, there were, if you looked, some new names and new faces in there. But the fact of the matter is, in DevOps, companies like JFrog and CloudBees and GitLab and Harness, there's a reason why they're leading the space.
I think it's a sign of the maturity of the market. Yeah.
It is a little more
Companies
mature,
have filled out and added more to their product set of things that they're offering. It's also just a maturity of DevOps.
Yeah.
We're going to be coming out with a new data set for future intelligence around DevOps and AI and development and things like that. And Techstrong research, it's going to come out. I don't know the date yet, but we're working on it as we speak.
56% of the people have not responded.
56% use Crest toothpaste. No, that's a different survey.
Different survey. I'm glad to hear that.
Even our Techstrong research from last year, showed that more people were putting themselves in kind of a later stage of maturity of adoption, of standardizing in DevOps and even mastery level. So, we've been doing this for a while. So I'm not surprised to see some of the same players continuing to do it, as well as new players too.
Absolutely.
And I imagine that some companies, especially the more experienced companies who have been a part of this contest for several years, are pretty good at their marketing and promotion tactics as well.
Yeah, no, there is that. Look, companies that promote that they're finalists and seek votes, get votes. People that don't. I'll tell you, though, another theme that I saw this year, there was a category, best use of AI in a DevOps product. We returned nomination fees because we had too many companies that were submitting. Every company is putting AI into their product, right? So that's a new theme too that I don't think we saw last year. Certainly not the year before that, for sure. So I think that was big. Look, it's DevOps, and I think the DevOps Dozen reflects the DevOps market.
I always like the categories involving, who we recognize as kind of leading evangelists for DevOps. So, who came.
Well,
to
this
mind
year
with
we had two different evangelist categories. One was best community evangelist. So this is not a vendor. And we had two great finalists, and the winner was from the Georgia, not Atlanta, Georgia, former Soviet Republic, Georgia, DevOps community. His name is Georgi Kashaveli, I believe is his last name. And he won as best community evangelist. He did he does a really great job, right? And more power to him. There was another person from India who was in the finalists there too, was also great and worthy. And then we had the corporate evangelists, right? And look, DevRel has had a tough year, right? A lot of our friends in DevRel don't have their jobs anymore. People are cutting back on DevRel, going back to sales. But there was several, and in that category, it was actually all new names, all new folks. The winner was from BMC, who, you want to talk mainframes, you want to say they're old guard, but they're out there banging the bushes and collecting votes, I might add, every year in and year out. So more power to them as well. Anything
Good
else?
stuff this year. No,
Good stuff.
DevOpsDozen.com.
DevOpsDozen.com. You can go there. There's an article I put up on DevOps.com with the help of our Crackerjack editor, Amanda. So you can check it out there. Or you can watch it on Predict 25. All the sessions are still up there.
And nominations for 2026
Will open in August. Please don't start writing me now. But they open in August. All right. Let's take a break, and then we're going to come back and find out what's the hottest new podcast on the waves. And I do mean the waves. Stay tuned. We're going to tell you about it. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
Modernize your business to fuel innovation and elevate customer experiences. With the Builder Community Hub, AWS and its partner network provide essential tools for transforming applications and infrastructure to fully leverage the cloud. Discover free trials, in-depth demos, and essential resources to empower DevOps engineers and developers to deliver value faster and more reliably. Visit the Builder Community Hub to learn more.
Hey, everyone. We're back here. So, as I mentioned, what's the hottest new podcast? Well, at least on Techstrong TV. Our friend Chris Blask has been building up some content and talking about and threatening us on doing a podcast for a long time. And in between keeping his boats afloat, traveling back and forth to Canada, advising people on critical infrastructure and cybersecurity, Chris has found the time to finally launch the Inevitability Curve. And when I say it's the best podcast on the waves, I literally do mean the waves. He records a lot of the sessions right on his boat with guests from around the world of cyber, and not only cyber, a bunch of stuff. But Chris, give us the scoop about the Inevitability Curve.
So in the early 1990s, I think it was 91, 92, I was living in Canada again, working in a little computer company, and they had an internet connection, right? You use net connection, right? And a dial-up thing. And it dawned on me that everyone on earth was going to get on the internet. And so a little 6-person company, and this is where I got into security shortly thereafter. And the two bosses, the two owners, about our ages, right? Said, "Kid, you don't understand. The internet's for education and military. It's never going to be a thing." And I argued this for a couple of weeks, and I finally went in to John Alsop, John, if you're out there, on this whiteboard and said, "Let's just assume for a second that I'm right. That in some useful period of time, 10, 20, 30 years, the entire global population gets on the internet." And I put a dot in the upper right-hand part of his whiteboard, and in the lower left it said, "We're here. If I'm right, there is already a line that connects us to that future." And multiple lines, but the sales of whatever, right? Things will change along a given pattern if in fact that future is correct. And I've found myself coming back to this over and over and over in my career and realize it really is before all this. This is always the way I've looked at things. It always kind of surprised me that we get so wrapped up in the moment. We can't say the moment is here because we have just gone through all these things. And given that we have gone through all these things to get to this spot, the only possible futures are along some range of trajectories that you can look at, right? So in this series, first one was got up last week. They come out every Wednesday. Heather McMahon, amazing background, just like so many of our peers. It's like, how did you get exactly there? Just that by itself. But having gone through all the phases that she's gone in her career, we talked about marine systems and cybersecurity and cyber systems and automation. It's that gives you a lot of insight into where we're going, right? So I'm looking forward to doing more of these. We have the weekly series, and we're putting together a set of round tables. The first one, end of this quarter, early Q2, we'll have a couple of sponsors. We'll sit down. We'll do the same sort of thing, in a larger group context. With AI, where have we been? How do we get to where we are right now? What useful information about our future can we find inside that? Because I find, with all the things I've done in my career, mostly it's talking to folks like you, where we all have a pretty good understanding of what we're doing and just ferreting out how the heck we got to this, and then looking forward a little bit and saying, all right, given that, we're probably about to do that. So
Very cool.
not that I'm obsessed or anything, but it's a thing.
No one ever accused you of being obsessive, have they?
I hope so.
As you look back over time, how much of the innovations that we have tracked, it wasn't really a technical issue as much as it just was a cultural issue, and it just took a while for the adoption curve to work its way through?
Almost all of it, right? I don't want to get all Isaac Asimov, psychohistory, foundation series on us. We are, arguably, free-willed entities, and we, creatures, we do things because we want to. However, right, when we're doing things, it's usually because we wanted to for a long time, and now's the time. The network address translation, one of my early claim to fames. And I always think, aside from, my own backpatting, I find it fascinating. The 1992, I think it was, we started building the borderware firewall server, and I talked to some, old Bart, like our age. He's like, kid, you don't understand. There's not enough IP addresses. The internet won't work. And within 15 minutes, with two colleagues, Andrew Flint and Amaya El-Gundi, we invented network address translation. Totally unaware that there was a raging debate among the IETF about network address translation, and two other people were inventing it in parallel all at the same time. Could that have been done earlier? Sure, but it wasn't nap time yet.
It reminds me there was a TV series with, I think it's James Burke, Connections, where he walked through history and said, this caused this, led to this, that led to gunpowder.
Well, there's the butterfly effect of that too, right?
It is sort of your inevitability curve of things happen for a reason because of a lot of things that led to that, enabled that to happen.
So I'm thinking, do we start calling Chris Dr. Harry Seldon?
I don't know. But I think that if I knew where the exact points were on the curve, I'd probably be working on Wall Street making a lot more money than I am right now. So,
well, if you had 6.7 gigawatts, you could go back in time and do that there, McFly.
Well, I think it's one of the things I'm looking forward, I'm enjoying actually in this whole conversation is defining what I mean by this, because it's not, the future is not fixed. However, it's less about the things that will happen as more about the things that are not going to happen, right? Not now, not yet. We can't make that kind of curve in that period of time. So it's more about bounding
the quantum
possibilities.
aspect to it, right? Like, the fact that it's there by the very fact of knowing that's going to happen, you're changing it, right? And so it exists in different states and multiverses and all of that craziness that we could get into, even though Jensen Huang says quantum computing is
10 to 15.
Yeah, and all these quantum stocks took a hit as a result. But there is a quantum aspect to it. But let me bring us back to the real world here of relativity and all that good stuff. Chris, the Inevitability Curve is going to be right here on Techstrong TV, on our network, as well as on your favorite podcast platform, whether it's Apple or Spotify or any of the other places that you listen to podcasts. as part of Techstrong TV. It'll be on the Techstrong TV YouTube channel. It'll be available on all of our websites, as well as LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, if you're still on there. Talk about some of the guests you've got coming on here.
Oh, this is, you mentioned Harry Seldon. I tend to think of Dirk Gently, the Douglas Adams character, everything, the holistic detective. And, you and I talked about this, over the years. It's amazing the people we know, the networks we make. And, Mickey Finnan Identity. Mickey is just an amazing person. She's also been, she'll be in the early episodes that are already recorded. Phil Engler at the Healthcare ISAC. Phil and I have been leading a CISA working group on ISACs as SBOM distributors. And I'm sorry, there's so many acronyms in there that I can't define them all. Hopefully people can pick up most of them. And discussing with him, he's working at the Healthcare ISAC. How do we get threat intelligence out to medical device manufacturers and so on and so forth, right? Everything from the talking to people, Fred Cohen, right? People have been in the industry. Fred coined the term computer virus in his PhD thesis. So he's that guy, right? These are all the people that we've grown up with and lived in our careers with, and young and old. I love the fact that people are coming into the industry, and it's easy to get a little pompous. It's like, I've got 30 years, I have 25 years. It's like, look, there are people with 3 years and 7 years of experience in security doing amazing things right now, right? And quite often the things that us, people with too much experience are missing.
You know what,
So
Chris? It goes back to something you said a little earlier. It's like, we didn't ever want to be those old farts who say, hey, kid, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. Because there's always some smart kid out there who's going to do network address translation or whatever the next thing is.
And their fresh new perspective to it.
Yeah. So,
right. Well, it is. I'll throw out one right. CIA drives me mad. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability are not the only 3 protection objectives.
pillars of security.
That's an artifact of the times, to our point. I can tell you exactly how that happened. Fred Cohen and Stephen Northcott and the creation of SANS and so forth baked that in. There are more than 3 possible objectives to security. So, to your point, Amanda, yeah, fresh new eyes coming into this, and not just rote.
How often are you doing new episodes, Chris?
Every week, every Wednesday, there'll be the interview episodes out. The roundtables will be at least quarterly. I think it's a reasonable goal to put those together and get that done.
The quarterlies are sort of live audience roundtables.
Right. Yeah. Get a couple. Those would be sponsored. So we'll have some.
Let's talk sponsors. What kind of sponsors you're looking for this? Marketing folks out there, pay attention.
Right. So this, look, I spend a lot of marketing money. Again, I am vice president of strategy at Cybeats, and I, do a lot of these roles. I've been a vendor almost my entire career. So there's thought leadership type of stuff, which has a less hard value. But, if you're interested in promoting your image of understanding where you're going, that's a good thing. And if you're targeting these audiences, this is Techstrong. We speak to a technical audience, and obviously I focus a lot on cybersecurity. So cybersecurity vendors are interesting folks, but I've always thought it's more than that. One of the things I love about supply chain right now is, though it's security people talking about supply chain, it's really all about logistics and efficiency and so forth. So
very cool.
Technical vendors, and we're happy to try to make you look good if you deserve it.
Excellent. All right. The Inevitability Curve comes out every Wednesday. Check it out here on Techstrong TV, or as I said, wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll be able to find it. Chris, good luck with it. Of course, we'll be doing everything we can to help, but I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic discussions there and good stuff. Let's take a break here on Techstrong Gang. We're going to come back to our C block. I think Amanda's going to kick that one. About AI spending projections. Too early to say it's a failure? Or
I don't think we're saying that. I think it's an inevitability curve issue.
okay. That brings the
in there.
That was nice, Mike.
You should work in marketing.
He's sharp.
Yeah.
Sharp. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
All right, folks, we're back. And yeah, going to that whole conversation about inevitability, we all think AI is coming, but boy, there's a huge debate about the when and the where, because a lot of folks in Wall Street are getting a little antsy about how come we're not seeing a huge amount of revenue flowing through these AI products just yet. And we saw UBS now has a survey out where they asked 125 senior IT execs, and they were saying that their spending would drive to the back half of this year, maybe even into 2026, because their businesses just weren't aligned around how to use AI just yet. We also have stories on Techstrong AI. There's a Freshworks report that says a lot of this stuff right now is just being driven from the bottom up. And part of the problem is there isn't enough leadership up top that's kind of saying where we should be driving this conversation. And then NTT has the same thing going on in their survey. And I know you talked to them recently. Everybody seems to be pointing to the same issue, which is it's just taking longer to execute on this than people imagined. But Amanda, I know you've been covering this whole AI space since the early days. What's your take on where are we and what's going on here?
Well, we know every company, practically every person, is eyes on AI and trying to integrate AI in some way. But the problem is, and you can see this on a lot of our articles, is the value is not coming through as expected. And so they're having to cut back on their spending because it's not giving them what they anticipated. So while this is an issue, of course, everybody has to move forward with AI adoption. So what is necessary is good communication and understanding the outcome and having a good plan of action, not just trying to throw things at the wall, having a specific use case, 1 point, 2 points you're trying to solve, and go forward with that first. And I think that we're seeing in a few different articles and interviews, that's the way to go.
I mean, there's overinflated expectations on AI. I'm shocked.
Hype cycle, shocking. Gambling going on. You know, I have a different take on this.
I'm surprised.
That's me.
It happens.
It's inevitable. But that being said, here's my take, and I'll be honest with you, it's not my take. I think my friend John Willis told me about it. There's a reason why we're seeing it from the bottom up, because the smaller companies, lower down, less money at stake, they're more nimble, they're quicker to adopt, they're quicker to experiment, they're quicker to try. When you get to the companies that USB is repping, or these large enterprises, the inertia built into driving those ships it's the reason why the Titanic sank, right? They can't get out of the way of the iceberg. And so we haven't been in this AI cycle long enough for the enterprises to change the direction of their ship, to overcome that inertia. And that's why we say, oh yeah, we're going to see it in the second half of 2025, because it's going to take at least that long for these behemoths to, look at their budgeting cycles. A lot of them are on fiscal, not calendar years. It starts February 1, June 1, and you can't do a lot of these AI projects if it hasn't really been budgeted. You only rob Peter to pay Paul so much. And so it's going to be the second half of the year at least, until you start seeing budgets at these large companies incorporate some of these AI projects. That being said, though, it's rocket.
I mean, to that point, and I've lived this, right? As part of running IT organizations, is something new comes along, you want to start to adopt it. and you're not in the cycle, especially in a very large enterprise, right? They're budgeting for 2, 3, 5 years out for projects that are multi-year projects. So what you do in the short term is you kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. You say, let's pull back on spending here. I'll put a little bit of it on AI when I really would like to do more. But it's going to be maybe a year, maybe 2 years before I really kind of are investing the levels that I think I should be investing, especially in a big enterprise. So in the near term, I think people are still in the experimentation phase, learning what they can do, especially with generative AI. They've got pilot projects. We hear about a lot of projects sort of stuck in that pilot phase, not sure how to get it into production. Kind of getting that over the hump, we'll start to see more value. But I think the bottom up is spot on. And, John's experience there, it is very much true that because we don't see the larger investment by IT budgets, people buy their own Copilot license or license to whatever tool that they like to use. But I don't think there's any doubt that it's a big market. It's just not going to happen as fast as we'd love to get an ROI on it.
If I was going to read anything into it, I and don't read too much into my statements, but it seems like the kind of overcorrection you get when it is a real trend, right? We started the show with DevOps, right? 10 and more years ago. Is it really going, would 2025 in DevOps be at the maturity level that all you guys were talking about at the beginning? Nobody knew. But the answer is yes, because that time, it really was time to do the thing. And I think AI, we're at this, early stage, the first couple of years, 1, 2, 3 years. And like you say, Mitch, people are going, I'm actually going to start using that. Whereas in the big corporations, there's healthy functions that try to damp that down. When the enthusiastic, group comes up and says, we need big budget next year, it's like, keep it low. The second year, maybe it goes too high. So I think we're in that overcorrect too much stage of a real trend. Haven't seen any signs of this version of what we call AI not being, frankly, as exciting as it looks.
I think that you have to keep in mind the fact that I would argue half of IT spending is now driven by a line of business unit somewhere, and it's not always in the IT budget. So a lot of those folks might be driving this conversation forward in a way that doesn't necessarily always include the IT folks until they get some level of scale going, and then they dump it back on the CIO and say, hey, look what we did. And
they're funding projects based on outcome-based ROI, what they need delivered, not just we need to invest in A technology versus B.
Mm-hmm.
I think also, one of the big things that predict yesterday was that 2025 we'll see a big move from, let's say, Gen AI to agentic AI. And I think agentic AI, believe it or not, is not as radical maybe as generative AI. Generative AI had a lot of parlor trick, phantasmagical property to it, right? Let me show you what it could do. You didn't have to be a techie to say, holy mackerel, that's cool as crap. Agentic AI, though, is where work gets done. And I think as in 2025, we start adopting and developing more agentic AI use cases, we're going to see more real, rubber meets the road, meat and potatoes kind of work being done via AI.
I agree with that, because a lot of this, stuff where we were handing people like a library of prompts that they should use for different use cases, they kind of looked at that and shrugged and said, I really don't know how to operationalize that inside of my job. But if I have an agent that I can just say, go do this, that's a different experience.
Well,
Yeah, and that was kind of my point is companies need to step back. What's a real solution a real problem that they need to solve, focus on 1 or 2 real problems they need to solve, get the budget for that and move forward.
I think there's a real emphasis. I mean, my theme for 2025 is AI in production. Let's get it in there and actually see what it can do for us.
Right, it's time.
And get out of the.
I mean, I did see an interview with Mark Zuckerberg from Meta, of course, who talked about in 2025, they think they're going to replace a lot of mid-level developer engineers with AI stuff.
Benioff is saying the same thing.
Is it? Yeah. So maybe I guess we'll have to wait and see how that comes out. What's the prediction there?
I don't think that's going to be true.
But
you heard it here first.
I doubt it.
Heck would predict coming out the Techstrong Gang.
I doubt it.
We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap us for Techstrong Gang today. we're busy here in Techstrong Land in Boca doing our all hands kind of meetings and planning and scheming and thinking about what's inevitable for 2025. And we'll go with that. Chris, I wanted to catch up with you too. It may wait till later this week because I got these guys here. But if you missed Predict 2025 yesterday, it's still up there. Go register and go check out all the sessions. They're all there, including the sponsors, and they have a bunch of great content on their hubs as well. So Predict 2025.
Insurance predictions for 2020.
Oh yeah, and again, Rex, if you register, everybody gets the Future and Prediction 2025 ebook. We'll be emailing that out. It's been a great week so far. We've got a full Techstrong TV lineup on for today as well. And we'll be back tomorrow with even more, as usual, from the gang. But for now, this is Alan Schimmel on behalf of Mike, Mitch, Amanda, and Chris. Thank you. We're out.